And it's just because they don't have to, because there's another avenue that, yeah.
They're not fucking stupid. They're part of the system. They're not idiots. They're not sending their kids in the military to get ground up in Afghanistan in a hamburger meat. Like, you fucking kidding me? No, they're all doctors and shit. These people know how the system works.
Well, you joined, so what made you feel the need to fight?
I wanted to kill terrorists. Like all Rangers. Like, we want to kill terrorists. My parents didn't want me to go. I mean, I just told them to fuck off. Like, I'm going to do what I want.
Well, was there also that sense of upholding freedom and, the Constitution?
I was pissed off about 9/11. I wanted to kill them all. Hello, everybody. This is John Koenig from Real Veteran News, and I'm my special new guest, Mary Kubik, also from Real Veteran News. Mary, hey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Mary. I am the Gold Star sister of Sergeant Ronald Kubik. I have my bachelor's of social work, and I look forward to working with veterans now and in the future.
Great. Wow, that was very succinct. I like that. Known Mary for a while. I think we connected in 2017 or I think it was like 17. Interest in nonprofits. Mary does extensive nonprofit volunteering, not just it, but a lot in the veteran community, but not just for that, just helping, being a good soul. And I have been doing some nonprofit as well, mainly through starting a nonprofit called Santor and Kubik Foundation, and we'd like to build it up over time. Hopefully we have an update on that sometime soon. I'm just kidding. Doing a great job. Keep it up. Yeah, nonprofit, friends, and now we're going to be analyzing the news together on Real Veteran News. So, Mary, what do you think about Real Veteran News and everything so far? And Mary was also on Unauthorized Media, which is the previous show, and bless her for that. Bless you for putting up with all that and helping. Helped me a lot on the old show, and so looking forward to doing the new one. So, what do you think about it?
I think that it's important that there's an alternative perspective of the boots on the ground, of the people that have been in uniform and may still be in uniform, of what they think is happening in the world. I think that that's a voice that's really missing. I think that a lot of times the people they use to fill those slots in the mainstream media are ones who kind of agree with the flow and are more flexible. And I like the fact that we're not, and we're going to be honest and authentic about our opinions on these things and why we believe that, as opposed to just flouting off an opinion and not really having a reason or any facts to back it up. So I appreciate it very much.
I rarely have facts, but I am.
That's not true.
I am reading articles off the internet and perusing. I'm perusing a lot. So, okay, yes, I agree. I originally, the idea was that I did not think that anyone who was a uniformed military personnel would ever want to be on my show, but I feel like at some point there probably are people who are going to, I feel like there are people that would like to, especially once it gets actually started. So I don't know how that goes. And I'm worried about everybody's position and job and all that. We all have to worry about that these days. And so I don't know, but it's a new kind of thing we're doing here. So we'll just see how it goes. Well, Mary, you asked me what I want to talk about, and I want to spend more time getting to know you, because the idea is that you're going to be my co-host when we do the 4-person show, and a primary, we'll have rotations. And even my concept is that I wouldn't necessarily be on every single show. Because I'm a human being and I can't be on every show 52 weeks a year, but I'm trying to have other people that can kind of fill in for me and for the co-host and everything. But yeah, I wanted us to talk a little bit. We talked a little bit, I guess, about nonprofit and stuff, but I just wanted to kind of introduce you to my tens of followers that are watching. No, in the future, more people will watch. It's just it's a new thing, and YouTube's pretty locked down. But we're going to get there. We're going to grind it out, So, but, this will be one of the earlier videos. Is there anything else you want to talk about or introduce, or should I ask you anything?
You could ask questions. One of the main things I think is that I chose social work as my degree. I didn't make that decision until after my brother was killed. I didn't really I felt kind of purposeless for a while. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I realized that being able to use the pain that I've been through for a purpose was something that gave my life some more meaning. So being able to pursue a degree in counseling and social work came kind of naturally to me. And I'm grateful to now have my bachelor's and be pursuing my master's in it, and hope that I can decrease, honestly, the suicide rate among the veteran population. Because since my brother passed away, I've known a few too many people. One is too many, but I've known a few who've taken their lives that served. And I'd like to eliminate that number, at least shrink it if possible. So
Yes, we don't want people killing themselves. And yes, I felt much better before that day as well. So we share that. So aside from that, you also sing
I do.
verbally with your mouth, with your lungs and mouth. A lot of national anthems being sung,
Yes.
and that's great. That's a good part of the Mary brand. Mary's also got the can-do attitude to help others with their nonprofit endeavors, which sometimes it can be hard to recruit people to your cause, but you've done a lot of volunteering in different places, and you're continue to, and you're interested in it. So that's your vibe, right?
That's my vibe. Yeah, I had the humble honor and privilege of singing the national anthem at the Global War on Terror rededication this weekend. They do it every year around September 11th, and their regular anthem singer called out basically, and took a chance on me, and I'm grateful that they did. It actually meant a lot to a couple people came up to me to see a Gold Star sister actually listed as doing something. Like, I didn't think about the impact that would have, but there were other siblings in attendance there who were grateful to see that the sibling population was involved and honored too. So that was awesome. And the Moog Mile this year, if you're in Columbus, Georgia, I sing the national anthem at the Mogadishu Mile every year too.
Yes.
So.
Great events in Columbus, Georgia. All right, so we're going to get started. And I told you that you asked what I want to talk about. And I said Afghanistan, recruiting, and like China chips type stuff. Or just China USA technology war. Which one do you want to start?
We could start with recruiting.
Yeah, start off on your strongest one. Start off on your strongest foot forward there, Kubik. I like it. It's good strategy.
It's awful. You
it's
can just fill the chips in later.
That's good strategy. I like it. It shows that you're a strategic thinker, and I like that. Yeah. All right. So, what do you? I mean, you've seen my videos because you're part of the team. Like, what do you think about? You don't have to say what you think about what I think about it, but what do you think about it? And you can talk about what I said if you want.
I think that we need to be more honest with people that we're trying to recruit for the military. And I think that we need to own what we did in Afghanistan in order to get the trust of the people. I think that if we don't own those actions, no one is going to trust us enough to sign their life over to us. Because that's exactly what you're doing when you enlist. You become property of the government, and seeing how the government handled that and how future allies are going to see how we pulled out in that endeavor. Like, we have to earn the trust of the American people and our allies again, in a sense. So I think that honesty is the only way to do that, and owning our mistakes. And if we don't start there, it won't matter if we're on TikTok or X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. We're not going to get their attention because they're not going to trust us with their lives.
Yes, there's like a truth deficit. And so you have like the military where you have obviously the officers in charge, and there's also like these former officers who are like civilians also in charge. And they're just wearing all different clothes and everything. And then there's most people in the military enlisted, something below a college degree usually, and that is like the majority of the military controlled by these officers. The voice of the military is controlled by these officers who are playing the game, and they're controlled pretty tightly. The enlisted can't really talk generally. We talk amongst ourselves, can't really talk. And then if the content that is out there, none of it is really military content. Is not really people from the military is not really challenging the like active military that's in right now. Whereas there's some like conservative media that they'll be like these general, the grandstanders, like these political people, but no one really pays attention to them because they're just blowhards anyway. There's nowhere that's really giving like true, like, even if I'm wrong, it's like I'm not like shining you on, like, maybe John's wrong, maybe John's stupid, whatever, but you know what I mean. And same thing with Mary's not gonna lie to you. She might be wrong, or might be a different sort of opinion or whatever, but and everyone else too. But like that's what we can do here. We're not going to be like corporate influence or like politics influenced, or I personally am not going to be like influenced by hurt feelings. And I also speak angry, and sometimes people are like, I don't like it when you're going like crazy. But to me, it's like I feel like there's other people out there who are angry, and like they might not go on the internet and like say these things, but they're thinking them, and it makes them feel better and like can connect with me. I don't need to connect with them that badly, but I feel like I can help people like me that are this angry, because they can be like, they might be screaming into their pillow while I'm like screaming like here. And I have been. This is right where I was when I worked, for the Pentagon doing AI, and I made the same video, not this video, but made videos to the general and all these senior people that had to have seen them. I assume they saw them. They had nothing else to do with the pandemic. And, same spot, same camera, same everything, right? And so, we just keep going. But there's that's like the business opportunity here is just like around this truth deficit. I would like for like Gen Z people who don't want to join the military, like interested in the military, but like know that it's probably not going to be great for them, or they have some kind of hang up about it, to like follow us, because then they could understand better and probably still not join, but still, you know what I mean? I mean, at least there's eyeballs and people are like paying attention to what's going on. And honestly, if Gen Z doesn't like how the military is going, I'm not saying they should like join the military in order to fix it. Like, you can't fix the military from the inside. Like, that's not going to work. So it's like, instead of just being like, oh, I'm just going to go on TikTok all day long. I mean, maybe it's just like, I want to be in the military, but it's fucked up. Like, do something about it. Like, start a nonprofit to like fix it, or become a politician and fix it, or do something, because like somebody has to fix the military, because they're who protect the country. And if eventually it's going to break down because they're getting robbed. Like, the bank accounts are getting robbed, the programs are getting robbed, everybody's getting robbed. I don't know.
And we can't just throw the towel in on it. Like, it has to be reformed. It's not the kind of thing where you can just demolish and start over. Like, you have to change it. You can't completely dismantle it. Like, it has to exist. Like, if it didn't exist, then this country would really fall apart, because we are a military industrial complex on some level. So it just has to be reformed, and the only way to really reform it is from the outside. Unlike SLC Pugs, where he felt like he had to get on the inside, you need to do it kind of from the outside. You have to be away from the red tape. So a nonprofit or community organizing or joining Congress or Senate or grassroots level is really the way to effectuate change on it.
When you're in the military, no one cares what you think about the military.
Like, your property, your government property, yeah. They don't care.
There's a new book written by a Marine second lieutenant explaining why Gen Z doesn't want to. It's one of these generational psychology books, which I kind of like. I mean, it's good to understand the difference between the generations, and it affects us because we all grow up together in our own generation. And so his name's Matthew Weiss. I saw the book online. I bought the book because obviously I've been talking about it. I want to hear what he said. I looked at it. I looked through the chapters. I read a few chapters. And then he was on Morning Joe on Friday. He seems, be very effective. He's getting his message out. His thing is, I'm from the Gen Z generation, so I'm like trying to explain it. I'm not from Gen Z generation. I'm from right in between like Gen X and Millennial. And I'm like in you two. We're a bridge generation, right? Like, anyone who's older than Mary and I essentially are stuck in like the pre-technology world for the most part. And then everyone that's younger than us is like millennials, and then on into Gen Z. Gen Z are like full tech native, whereas millennials like grew up with iPhones, but were like, you know what I mean? But basically iPhones have been around since before Gen Z even started. They're just much different, right? And so I learned some stuff about their generation from him, which one thing I learned about was that they're competitive. Like, the millennials were more like that everybody gets a trophy generation, whereas the Gen Z are competitive, but they're just like psyched out in their own heads and all anxious and everything, and like worried about everything. Obviously, their opinions of the military are down, but they've also seen kind of like the tail end. They didn't see like the high times of the military when like, during we were like, doing all these wars and there's all this patriotic shit. They're too young for that, or they weren't alive. And then now they're seeing like it all fall apart, right? Like, they saw it all fall apart, and we saw both. And so, yes, their opinions are going to be different and stuff like that. Now, is there going to be like another 9/11, another Black Swan event that comes in and like shakes up Gen Z? Because like Gen Z has to fight. Gen Z has to go in the military. Gen Z is going to have to protect the country one way or another. I think that their generation is a pivot point. I think that their generation will be the beginning of the next, like the new military, because of the technology and everything. Like it's just we're in this like crunchy, in between transition period. We've got these like crunchy old fucking stupid generals, and then we've got all these like young. They're not really that good at tech, but they like can use it in their life. They're very like adept at like learning and like using consumer tech, basically. Obviously the computer science students are good at, but like the general, they're not all writing code, but more so than previous generations. So they are coming in and they're kind of like refusing to join the military because of how poorly it was run, and then all the old crusty generals and just all the like stereotypes and everything. So they're kind of like protesting. So you have this like clash between young and old. Military's collapsing, and so anyway. You haven't seen the book, probably should check it out.
What's it called?
Oh, it's called Uncle Sam, We Don't Want You, because it's like Uncle Sam wants you is like the typical World War II like enlistment phrase. Uncle Sam, we don't want you. I will say that it's a nice book. He did a really good job. There's no typos in it that I saw or anything like that, and it's well done. But like the cover doesn't indicate that it's. There's an Uncle Sam thing, but you see the Uncle Sam, but it could be anything. It could be like a history book. Like, there's nothing on the cover to me that signifies that this is like a current military like crisis thing. Like the Uncle Sam thing makes it look kind of old, or like something that's like triggering like an older generation. It is whatever. So this is the cover of the book, but did a good job. He's got a lot of stuff. His stuff is kind of piecemeal, so it's like the weed and mental health, and he's touching us on the same stuff I'm saying. But to me, the crux of it is like I want the generals to just like fire themselves. Promote younger people up, reorganize a system, and then essentially the brand of the military has to be rebuilt from the ground up to where it's like we fucked up, it's different now. Like that should be first off, the whole military should just be one organization. The Army, Navy, Air Force stuff is like so stupid.
One force, one fight.
Organizationally, it's like they got all this like redundant bullshit everywhere. It's like all the bases are all mixed together. And it's just like, just make it one big thing. And when the kid comes, it's like, you want to be in the Navy, kid? Oh shit, you're in the Navy. Who fucking cares? You're all getting paid from the same bank account. You're all going to the same doctors and everything like that. It's just no corporation would ever do this. It's so stupid. And basically just recruit them in and like let them pick and what they need to do. Like these younger kids too are like really are going to need to like be able to visualize their path. They need to know where they're going to be living. They're going to need to know what they're going to be doing. This whole, I got fucked by the military. Like I joined, my recruiter lied to me. Like there's just too many generations of these stories of it having been a bad experience for people that they've just internalized this. And now with the internet, a lot of the stuff perpetuates, echo chamber, and they have like a shared consciousness where they think it's just a bad deal. The young people think that that if you're joining the military, you're doing it because you're a loser. So not because you're like patriotic. They'll be like, oh, you have no other options. Like this is like your last ditch effort to not be a homeless person. You know what I mean? Like that's how they see it. Because to them, the pinnacle is like influencer or just like, successful young person that has like money and like isn't in the military, Anyway, so I'm for all. What do you think, Mary?
I feel like they just haven't been tested yet. Like you were saying, we're on that like weird bridge thing. Like pagers came out when I was in high school. Like I didn't get a cell phone until I got like a prepaid flip phone when I started driving. But I've had to learn all that technology, but I could exist without it.
You had to learn to use a beeper. Was that hard?
Oh yeah. Remember 07734? Turn it upside down, it's hello. Like I had to.
I thought it was boobs. It's boobs. It's 80.
That's 80085.
Yeah.
But like we had to learn how to do both. So we could, like when the cash registers go down, I'm one of the few people who's at my job now who's able to do the math. I'm like, I don't need the register in order to do change, like I don't need this thing or a calculator to think for me. And the generation now relies on technology. Like they're all going to have that neck problem because the cell phone, tech neck, because they're just, and we're used to like looking straight up and reading actual books with pages, not like flipping through a phone in order to get to the next page. So it's been interesting to work with young people at my one job and just listen to and see the difference in like the thinking and like the way the mental operations are. But I tend to think like step by step, real physical things, and everything for them is technology.
We were idiots when we were kids too. I was
I
was so stupid when I was younger.
It's so just different because they're just very tech minded. So.
Yeah.
Video games, and I remember playing tag outside and like You got locked out until the sun came down. It was like, come back at dinner time, and kids today are inside
They're
playing on
tech. They're tech
PlayStation.
consumers, though. Like, I mean, there's some young people that are going into like computer science, web
Mhm.
development, apps, and some of these things actually do technology in their lives, and there's always going to be that. But I mean, most of them, they're better at consuming technology of like apps on my phone or whatever. But I mean, that's not like a career. They're
Yeah.
just in their lives. They can integrate. They can bring a new app into their life a little bit faster, or they might hear about it a little bit because their core friend group is using it, and they're younger and they're more hip or whatever. But all companies want to attract young people because like when you make a customer when they're young, you have them for life because all your customers are eventually going to die because we're humans and we die. The business theoretically would never die, ideally, depending on what kind of business. And so, yeah, I mean, they're very attractive for businesses to advertise to them and then try to get their eyeballs and just like lock them in. And then you always have this variable where it's like, I have this many people on their cell phones, but if I can get them to stay for 5 more minutes, I could show them 10 more ads. Mm-hmm. If I get them to stay for 7 more minutes, I'll show them 12 more ads or something. And it's just this maximization of ad revenue and ad placement that, is why everybody's kind of getting turned off. It's kind of like the dark era of social media. I mean, it was pretty, I mean, in the very beginning, it was pretty useful and cool to be connected to these people. You didn't have to like call people up all the time and everything. And, the pictures and stuff. And then when the cell phones got integrated, I mean, it was good, but now it's just a cesspool, most of them. Right.
And I think that it's really debilitated communication in a lot of ways. Like, as a waitress, I would often see people sitting at a table with each other and they were both on their phones doing different things. Like, people aren't talking and as much as they were. And that inhibits them when it comes to jobs. So interview skills and like person to person, like they're great on a resume. They're great on paper. And then you meet them and the social awkwardness is like this level that I've never seen before. Like, they just don't know how to talk face to face. So you'll be sitting across from them and they'll send you a text message like, couldn't you tell me that you'd like the pizza, like verbally? Like, why did you have to send that as a message? And that's an extreme. But I mean, it feels very much like that. Like, there's that lack of being able to go up to someone and just start a conversation. Like, everything is very internal and there's this sense of loneliness and a lack of real community that I've noticed in the newer generation versus us who basically had to go out and fend for ourselves and find friends, like go be friends with the neighborhood kids and come back. Mom has things to do,
The military might become more introverted, isolated and stuff as it becomes more technology focused. Like, you're going to be in a cubicle, you're going to be designing tech for the military. It's going to be robots, it's going to be drones, there's going to be less trigger pullers, there's going to be less boots on the ground, there's going to be more contractors. I mean, that's where we need to go. So, I mean, the military needs to adapt to the generation. Like, you cannot expect Gen Z to come in and change the way that their entire generation, millions of people have developed in order for them to like suit the military needs so they can get themselves fucked up. I mean, there just needs to be a new bargain and a new system that they buy into. Otherwise, the military is just going to keep trending down. Mm-hmm. Last thing that I saw on recruiting that I can use to like stimulate this a little bit more is that the Army stopped recruiting or stopped reporting their in-progress recruiting numbers. And they won't tell us. They're giving us like these rough estimates. She says, I think we're going to have between 55,000 and 50,000 signups when they really needed at least 65,000. Not to mention the fact they were down 12 or 15 from last year. So, and it's like, and the senators, because the senators can grill them. The senators are like, there's no light on the horizon. Like, this recruiting problem is not going away, and the military is dwindling. And it's just like each one of these generals is trying to cover their ass and just pass the hot potato to the next asshole general that's not going to do anything until the military just like withers and dies. You know what I mean? And they will not like admit their mistakes. They will not change the system. They will not readdress this bargain between the young person and the government and the country of, we will take care of you in this way, this way, this way, and this way if you fight. And it's like, there's no reason why you can't address that bargain because there's going to be less people fighting anyways. Like, this is stupid. Like, we're obviously not going to invade Iraq again. We're not going to invade any country like we did before because it just like wrecked the military. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we need a smaller military. We need a smarter military, younger military. And the leaders need to be young. The military is young. The military is senior leaders need to be young. There's no reason why they all have to be the oldest people in the military. That is a bias towards experience over just any other factor. It's a single variable determinant of who's a general and who's not. Who's been on the ground the longest? Like, who's been here since Reagan? You know what I mean? Like, you're the general. You're in charge. It's like this. It's like in an old, like, Native American tribe or, like, any kind of, like, nomadic tribe where it's like the oldest person is in charge. When in the Vikings and stuff like that, it was like whoever was the toughest, which also not great, but at least they were younger and more like daring and more adaptable. They probably didn't have all the experience in the world, obviously, but they're living to like 30. I mean, it's just so biased. What do you think about like the old generals and how that affects the recruiting?
I mean, I really think that the same way I feel about Senate, Congress, and everything else, like you should only be able to do something for so long. And really, if you're successful, you're training the people underneath of you to take your job and to do better at it. So the fact that instead of trying to raise up the next generation and then kindly move out of the way, they're trying to own that spot and not really elevate anyone or train them in the leadership skills that they need, in addition to the skills that they come with that the current generals don't have. So I think that there needs to be more of a focus of lifting up the next generation and then knowing when it's time to step aside. You should hit a certain level when you know, like, okay, it's my time. Like my grandmother willingly gave up her driver's license at a certain age because she was like, you know what? I really don't need to be driving anymore. I'm like 80. It's good. I'll make my way around, and some people don't have the foresight to be like, maybe it's time that I pass this to somebody else who's got a piece of the future as well as the present, the past. It might be time for us to take a seat. And I think that it's sad that we're not focused enough on really raising up the next generation of leaders, that people just want to like sit and plant where they are and not move and be like, this is my seat and I'm going to stay in it. Like, I think there definitely needs to be more of a focus.
Well, they're perpetuating a system. I mean, they rotate around. It's not like they sit. It's not like a senator that sits in the Senate for 40 years. They're rotating around and getting elevated, but they're all like massaging. They're all scratching each other's backs.
Oh, yeah. But they're not trying to bring in new. Like, they're not trying to bring in new. They're not trying to integrate. So I'm saying that what we need to do is take what exists, bring what's coming, and build a bridge and merge it together.
Okay, so commanders at the top are literally just decision makers. And like realistically, because they're controlled by these politicians and defense corporations, they're not even really making decisions. They're literally just like a person who's like keeping a chair warm and just signs contracts for the defense contractors and salutes the president or whatever asshole is telling them what to do. They're not even really making any type of like serious decisions. They're just like deciding how to implement this bullshit, anyway. Mm-hmm. And so there's no reason why the person making decisions has to be the oldest. I mean, the logic doesn't follow that always the best decisions be made by the oldest person. It's just the oldest person has been around the longest, the most people know them, the most people are comfortable with them. And the system is like skewed towards stability. Like going with the oldest person is always going to give you the most stable. But do you think China's all their leaders are? At the political level, yeah. But in these organizations, the military, I don't think that they got like these super old guys. I'm just saying that like we could have people at the senior levels who are in their early 50s instead of their early 60s, and it would make a huge difference. And it would cut down all this corruption shit. And the older people can stay in the military too as like advisors or in different, roles, or you pair like a younger person with an older person. You know what I mean? And then the older one is more of like an advisor mentor, but the younger person has to be the one to make the decision, and like, because they're going to be much less likely to be bought off and influenced by these defense companies and by all this bullshit. Mm-hmm. They're going to be closer in touch with reality. They're going to be closer to the troops. I mean, these people are so cut off from the boots on the ground military. They just like don't even know what it's like anymore. If they were ever even in touch with them in the first place, which a lot of them probably weren't. So,
are there actual rules? Like you have to be 35 years old to be president type with generals and that? Like, do we have guidelines and parameters? Like you have to have served for this many years, or you have to be this old in order to do it. No. Like, do we have? Nothing?
I mean, they have an officer career progression, and so I mean, for the officers, if they stay in and they like do a reasonably good job, pretty much all of them can make it to like lieutenant colonel if they want to stay in for like 20 years, something like that. Once they get into 20 years, all of the officer stuff. So colonel is like the lowest. They're not considered general officers, but basically the selection is similar to the general, where it's like the army is selecting, and that's a lot based on personalities. because the generals at the top are just like picking and choosing. It's all from the top, just picking and choosing. And so they pick this colonel, they pick this guy, this guy, this guy, they make the colonel list. And then those colonels are essentially have the opportunity to become a general like a little bit later on. And they're essentially in overtime in their career. Their career kind of ends at that lieutenant colonel level. And if the military still wants them and they still want to do it, then they start getting into where they're getting appointed by Congress. You go up to 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. And, eventually they'll be, if they go to 4-star and they're in there forever, I mean, yeah, they're going to be in their 60s. Because their career all of a sudden now is 30 plus years. And they're too old to make cutting edge decisions. And they're slow and they're thinking about their retirement and they're tired and everybody's been kissing their ass for too long. They don't question themselves. Like, who's going to question the general?
I mean, I don't think 60 is old.
For making these kind of decisions, it is. They should be somewhere in between. 40 is going to be like max fluid intelligence. 60 is going to be like not enough fluid intelligence. They need to be somewhere around 50. So they have experiences and fluid intelligence. It's just not working. The 60-year-olds are like tapped out.
I've done 40 years in the military. I can see that being a very different 60.
Not 40, but like I think they get close to 40 some of them.
Well, I mean, if you entered at 18 and you're in your 60s,
I mean, if you count West Point, but like they have to go to college, so they're not going to go until they're like 22, but usually they go to West Point. I don't know if they count West Point. They probably count West Point. All right, beat that one up. If you want to go on, do you want to do Afghanistan or China?
I don't know that much about China except the fight over Taiwan. I mean, I know that we're fighting for chip technology and production and that we've got all our eggs in one very tiny basket that is surrounded. So
everyone's got their eggs in a Taiwan basket. That's where we're getting all our goodies from.
As far as the technology aspects of it go, you're much more educated than I am. I'm more.
What do you think, Kubik?
About Taiwan
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Taiwan, but we haven't talked on this show. So, like, what's your opinion on Taiwan? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, I think that we've picked a very tiny location for a very important technology that is surrounded and still technically owned. So, with Japan and China and everybody going after it, and then we have our technology there, and it'd be very expensive to move it, that it's quite possible that we'd have to seriously intervene if, things come into play and people try to go after that nanotechnology, like we're, for the chips, like we're going to have to be there. We're going to have to be players in that.
No, we just bomb them. We don't have to be there. Just bomb the factories.
Then how are we going to continue to make the tech? Isn't that the only place?
I mean, ideally, we have our own factories. I feel like that is somebody's job, probably in Washington, D.C., to make sure that we have these fucking factories.
I agree, but we don't right now. So if this were to take place tomorrow, that we couldn't just bomb it.
If we bomb it, then they don't get it. They get their little island or whatever like that. But we're going to send aircraft carriers over there to protect the chip factories?
I mean, what do you think the timeline is when somebody would actually put the pressure on them to take that land back over and or take that, China really wants that technology, and we've tried to put in all these fail stops to prevent them from doing it, to keep them from catching up with us. So what would the timeline be that we think that they'd actually go after that?
They basically said within the next couple of years, probably 3 to 5 years. They're not really ready right now.
And would we have our own factory within the next 3 to 5 years? Is that even a priority of ours? I mean, it should be.
Yeah, I mean, of course. But I mean, are they? Yeah, they did the CHIPS Act. Biden did the CHIPS Act. But I mean, are they going to steal the money? Is it going to work? I don't know. I mean, yeah, they threw money at the problem. Is that probably not, because they're stupid.
No.
And they're just going to get ripped off. I mean, it's like a free-for-all on that money. So yeah, I mean, there'll probably be some chip factories somewhere, I would assume. This shit happens all the time. Solyndra and all these companies the government gives money to. I mean, shit happens all the time. And it happened in China. They had a chip fund because they wanted to pass us. I think it was a couple $1 billion, and it all got stolen. They got nothing for it. If we're not careful, we're going to get robbed. And then they're not going to get robbed this time because they got robbed last time. And then they have the chips and we don't, or we're on parity. I mean, if we're on parity with chips with them, I mean, it's a whole new ballgame. I mean, they can do anything. They're racing. Are we racing as hard as them?
No.
No, fuck no. They're spending. They just put $40 billion in this week. I mean, they got all kinds of programs to steal chips and steal blueprints, and they're probably building stuff. In COVID, they put up the hospital in 10 days or a week or something. I mean, I know it's shitty and everything, but I mean, they're gonna do it fast. Like that's their whole fucking thing. Is like we're gonna outwork the Americans. We're gonna do it faster. We're gonna catch up. We're China. Like they're slow. These lazy Americans. Like they think they're better than us. Like we're gonna show them. I mean, like this is what's fucking happening.
Our war priorities are off in that regard. I mean, in terms of our defense budget, we're not paying enough attention to like you've said multiple times, the technological aspects of it. I don't think that we're near as far ahead as we could be if we'd actually focus on like drone production and chip production and, the unseen aspects as opposed to like who's got the better tank and the bigger gun. Like, I don't think we're as far
ahead. I was working in the government. I posted videos in there and I'm like, it's going to turn into a robot fest. Robots fighting on over the Pacific Ocean. That's what it's going to be. Hopefully there's no aircraft carriers out there getting sunk. And then Kathleen Hicks, Deputy Secretary of Defense, is the highest ranking female ever in the Department of Defense. She goes out and they're now, I don't know if it's her idea, probably not. I don't think this is like a strategic person, but whoever's doing it, there's this new program called Replicator where they're supposed to they're going to go all in on these like autonomous drones, basically to defend the Pacific, because they realize like if they have drones and we don't, we're just going to lose. So they're supposed to build these massive like DoD factories or whatever that are going to churn out thousands of these like drones that'll basically be deployed between us and China. And they're probably because they figured out they've already been doing that for like 2 years, and that's why they're freaking the fuck out. And then Kathleen Hicks gets up there and she's like, the industry is responding and we're doing all this like PR bullshit. And these people got their thumb up their ass. All they care about is making their dollars. They don't give a shit about the mission. You know what I mean? Like, no one's burning the midnight oil to like deliver this stuff. Everybody's got some fancy title. I'm the chief AI executive of the Naval Warfare Underwater Dynamics Division. And, I have a PhD from some fucking shitty school or whatever that got online. And, and they're just watching college football all weekend long. Like there's no Oppenheimer. There's none of this shit. It's just a bunch of lazy people in the government. And, there's like young people and some mission focused people, 85% and the 15%, but they're smothered out by all these like people that don't give a shit. They're just government workers. And this all has to change, right? The security clearance system has to change. The recruiting has to change. We have to recruit higher talent, more technology focused people that are educated people, and rebuild, because right now China's just going to beat us on all this stuff. They're going to have better AI than us. They're going to have more of these robot drones than us, and they're going to fuck up our shit.
I mean, we've become so complacent. Like, what do you think would give people buy-in and the incentive to actually burn the midnight oil?
They think all their kids are going to die in a war. They would, but they don't. They think someone else's kid's going to die in the war. That's why you don't want to work hard.
Because there's no personal incentive or consequence.
Yeah. They're just, if you're a civilian in the government, you're not busting your ass. You're just like part of the problem, honestly. Because your kid's not going to get drafted. Your kid's not going to go in. Nobody from Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Maryland sends their kid to the military. Like, they're not. They're all like, oh, he's going to Princeton. He's going to here. He's going to be a doctor or something like that. Nobody sent their kid to the military. But then they get out there and they're like, oh, the kids aren't, they're in trouble too much and they smoke weed and they're fat and whatever. And they just come up with all these excuses, but none of their kids are in. And like all these generals and stuff, and it's like, oh, my kid is in. It's because you like force fed him into West Point. He's never going to see combat. He's never going to be in danger. And then he's going to have this privileged life where he's some general's son his whole way through. And then after that, he'll have a security clearance. He can go working anywhere he wants in the government, doing government contracting, and then just like follow in the family business. And then his son will go in too. You know what I mean? And everyone complains about legacies at Yale and Harvard and everything. That's exactly what you're doing at West Point. It's not a formal legacy system, but like if your dad's a general, you're going to be at West Point, unless you fail fucking English or something. I mean, it's the same fucking thing. And
are there people that choose to be the exception to the rule? I mean, I guess there's not that many that grow up in that environment that would want to actually be infantry or something, as opposed to like
basically. I mean, it's like how many people from my high school you think join the military?
Very few.
This kid from my high school after I left, I graduated in 2000, and he graduated in 2004. His name's Samuel Webb. I was on the Howard County Commissions for Veterans and Military Families. which the chairman said the reason why the executive dick from the county executive dick started it, it was so that more people, when they retired from NSA, would settle in our county rather than Anne Arundel County because the taxes are higher. They didn't want to help veterans. It was fucking bullshit. And the only kid up to that point during the whole GWOT in Iraq or Afghanistan in the entire county, in Howard County where I'm from, who died was this one guy named Samuel Webb. I did all this research because I was on this commission. And nobody's died from where I'm from. Nobody, except for Samuel Webb, right? And so in my high school, I guess he was a freshman at the year after I left there. And he was in the Maryland National Guard. He was in Iraq. And there was like a vehicle accident with these trucks. And it was like the trucks hit and explosions went off. Maryland National Guard. And we lost, I'm not sure exactly how many total, but there were a couple of Maryland National Guard soldiers that were killed in this vehicle accident in 2006, I think, or 7. And I go in there, or I started like criticizing them because they didn't do anything. They don't like tell the kids at the school about him. Like in Ron and my company, in Delta Company 375, there was another young man who was killed from 2nd Platoon named Ryan McGee. In his hometown out in rural America, they named the football stadium at his high school after him.
Wow, I didn't know that.
At my place, in the office, inside the office, was like no kids were in there anyway. There's just a little plaque in there, like a fucking $30 piece of shit that you would get for like a participation trophy at your like millennial soccer game or whatever. And it's like the fucking date. I think the date of his death was wrong on it, and it was just like, it had an error on it. It was like there was no fucking respect. And I started blasting them on LinkedIn because I just like got totally triggered. And after I quit the commission and everything, they're like, "Oh, we noticed the error. We're gonna get that fixed." I'm like, "Why don't you do something else, you bastard?" It's like this kid like fought. He was in the National Guard. He wasn't like some Navy SEAL or something like that. But it's like, he died over there in his 20s, and he went to River Hill High School. And you guys don't even remember him? Do any of the kids at River Hill High School know that Samuel Webb went there, that he died? No. Because none of the parents there in that liberal bedroom community want their kids to join the fucking military. That's why he's got this little plaque in the whatever. Because nobody wants their kids to think that the military is even an option. Because that's their worst fucking nightmare. Which is my parents' probably their worst nightmare when I did it. But yeah, everybody went to college when it was the middle of the Iraq War. Of course, no one's joining the military. Yeah, I'm an anomaly. Yeah, and there are others too. There's people who just want to fight. But there's different psychological profiles, but we do know psychological testing, There's no difference between them knowing this person versus Nicholas Cruz when they show up at the recruiter's office. You know what I mean? Like, you could be a total psychopath and they have no idea. Unless you've been put in a mental hospital or something.
We didn't have that many people in New Jersey join either, and it turns out that from our high school, I had no idea until my brother died, that there had been other soldiers who'd served who died. Like, our school just did not advertise that, we had people that had graduated from Manchester that were in the Army and passed away in action. So after Ronnie died, and then his friend Nicholas died, who also went to that school, they started a wall of heroes. So now there were more people. I mean, I don't know why they didn't teach us this at all. We had one person make the Olympics, and he got an entire wall. His name was Andrew Valman. I only know that because the entire gym wall was painted for him. And we'd had several people killed in action, and were never taught that on Memorial Day. Like, nobody talked about it until after Ronnie and Nick died. And then they made this like wall of heroes.
Yeah. Some of these schools, some of these high schools, hometown high schools are amazing. Some of them are pieces of shit, and mine is a piece of shit. Some of these counties, like where Mary's from, and some places, like, have a lot of people who have died in these wars. Mm-hmm. My county, no, because no one's fighting, and there's a lot of places like that all over the country. It's like some people fight and some people don't. So
does Maryland even have a Run for the Fallen if so few people enlist in it? Because not every state does. So the Run for the Fallen is a nonprofit organization that each state, if there's somebody that's willing to chair it, like volunteer to do so, can have a run in honor. I think New Jersey's, it was over 196 people that were killed since 9/11 in the state, because they actually have a mile marker for every person who died. Does Maryland do that?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just talking about my county. Like, other counties, obviously, there's been people who have died, and like there's been a lot of people from Maryland who have died. But like,
yours in particular,
just not like, no, it's the second richest county.
No, I was going to say, because my county in particular, we definitely had a lot of loss in GWOT. So
yeah, well, No one from where I'm from sending their kids to the military.
And it's just because they don't have to? Because there's another avenue that, yeah.
They're not fucking stupid. They're part of the system. They're not idiots. They're not sending their kids in the military to get ground up in Afghanistan in a hamburger meat. Like, you fucking kidding me? No, they're all doctors and shit. These people know how the system works.
Well, you joined, so what made you feel the need to fight?
I wanted to kill terrorists. Like all Rangers. Like, we want to kill terrorists. My parents didn't want me to go. I mean, I just told them to fuck off. Like, I'm going to do what I want.
Well, was there
also
that sense of upholding freedom and, you know, the Constitution?
No, I was pissed off about 9/11. I wanted to kill them all. That's what Rangers do. We kill terrorists. So I wanted to go and fight the terrorists and kill them. The military kills terrorists every single day. Let's go. You know, I mean, but it gets boring, you know? They turn it into some fucking business opportunity for these fucking dicks in Northern Virginia. Keep it going forever so they can keep sending us toilet paper and shit. You know, people with families breaking up and their kids growing up without them so that you can maintain some contract. You know, and then, you know, Afghans are getting killed. People are getting all types of stuff poisoned out there, burn pits, and like it's just perpetuating. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have been there. I mean, I think we should still like maintain there, but just the way it's done is so terrible. The people at the top are so stupid. They set a stupid strategy, and then everyone below them is like, aye, skipper, you know? I mean, What the fuck? Like, this stuff is not going to work. It was obviously not going to work. The whole Iraq war stuff, that didn't work. This Afghanistan stuff didn't work. I mean, all these strategies these people come up with are dog shit.
Do you think that's because they're not there? I mean, they're not boots on the ground.
No,
they're
because our system's
the money
fucked
that
up.
they're making.
The wrong people are in charge. They're too old, and they're beholden to rich people. The rich people want old people because they'll do what they're told. You know, they understand them more, and they're more predictable and stable. Rich people just want stability. They don't care if you're poor. They don't care if you're sick. They don't care about anything. They don't care if there's a war or there's not a war. They're rich. They can do whatever they want. All they want to do is stay fucking rich or get richer, and they control everything.
Do you think part of that getting richer will involve increasing the technological advancements of the armed forces? Like, do you think that maybe if they saw a buy-in that way, like that they could make money by improving the chip technology or building that factory here, that they would actually get invested
They're
in
gonna
the military?
make money one way or another. They don't give a fuck if we have the best chips or the best augmented reality. Every day that clicks by on the calendar, they're gonna make money one way or another. They don't have the workforce to... This is what happened with the AI. They could have started AI faster, but they didn't have the people to hire. They can't just go to Silicon Valley and hire the best data scientist because he's from some other country. Or her, or whatever. These have to be Americans. They have to have security clearances. Americans with security clearances are not the smartest people in the country. And they're not going to have all of the cutting edge technology skills. Once you get the security clearance, you have the security clearance job, essentially all your skills start atrophying immediately. You just start getting stupider from the day you hit the federal government. You know, these people, they've been there forever and they think it's just like nothing's changed. And it has fucking changed because you're not in the real world. You're in a fake bullshit organization that's propped up by like federal employees unions, and you're working with people who don't care, and like you're just degrading constantly.
Is that what makes them degrade, the fact that the people that they're working with don't actually care about what they're doing? Or
Yeah, you're in a group of people who don't give a shit. Eventually you're just going to bump into that over and over again, and you're outnumbered. Everybody just wants their paycheck. Everyone just wants to keep paying the bills so their wife's not going to cheat on them. Everybody just wants what they want, you know? I mean, no one's out there for the mission. It's nice when you go into a bar and you're like, oh, I work at the State Department and I do this, that, or I work here, I work there. And people are like, oh, that's cool. Because they imagine that you're doing cool shit.
Yeah, you're not.
You know, and all that feels good, but it's just a brand thing, you know? And people don't understand that, you know, these places are not well functioning. And they do get stuff done. Yes, the military is good at doing an op. Like, I just, you know, it's just like, oh, kill this guy and, you know, whatever. Okay, yes, get this person here, there, whatever, like that. But handling these politically intense, foreign entanglements, these long, low-intensity conflicts, we are not good at. And the people in charge don't understand them. They don't understand the foreign cultures, and we're just getting our fucking ass handed to us. And it, frankly, doesn't really matter. Like, Afghanistan doesn't really matter. Iraq doesn't really matter. The Roman Empire invaded a lot of places, burned them down, and was like, oh, that was a mistake, and they just, like, pulled out. Yeah. Empires do this. China fucking matters. If we lose this shit to China, they will never let us make a comeback. You know what I mean? Like, that's what worries me with these people. I mean, they just think everything is just a nail, and they got their little hammer, and they're just going to start pounding away. We just need new people. So making the videos, gathering support, perpetuating ideas. But yeah, reform has to come. There's just no way that I am going to leave this fucking planet with the same bullshit going on as when I got here. Like, there's just no way. I will die trying. I swear to God.
Gotta leave it better than you found it.
Oh my God. I mean, this shit has to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
These people are awful. You know, there's good Americans out there in America, around here and there. And we need to bring more regular Americans from around the country need to come to DC. Like, it can't just be like all DC people anymore.
Well, it's really expensive to live in DC, John.
Yeah, but you work for the federal government, so you got that cake, govy job.
If I get an 11, I'll be there.
Oh yeah. All right, Mary. It was great discussing with you. Thanks for co-hosting with me. We have no guests.
Not yet.
We are guestless. So, but yes, in the future we'll have guests. We will launch. But I think this is good. This is good. I mean, it's good for me to make a little bit of solo videos. Set down some foundation for this. But Mary is also foundation, and glad to have you, Mary. And we're gonna build this one up, and tell the truth, and be awesome.
Right. Glad to be here. Glad to be a part of it. I know it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's gonna go well. All right, we'll see you soon from Real Veteran News. Goodbye.